sorry, it's cinema. Actually, there is an introduction, so I already have an introductory thing for you on my page. I can show it to you. In fact, I was going to ask you. Just I think last time or 2 years ago, you responded to some students' questions. Yeah. Can you do that again? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. Within the I'll give you to the end of next week. They're going to write questions by Wednesday, but you can look at it any time and respond.
Sure. Yeah. That sounds good.
I think because I actually the previous lesson I also talked about the work that you did. You just got your MA, and I talked about the program a bit.
Okay.
So I want to talk about now is the work that you're doing. So your first published work. So how did that come about, and then how did you like working with a collaborator?
Well, so at the Getty, I work as the manager of the Office of the Director and Museum Councils. Mm-hmm. And years ago...
Actually, how long have you been working there?
11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So almost as long as I've been teaching at City College. Okay.
That is kind of funny, though.
Right.
Yeah. And so I had, when I had first started writing for children, I met with a friend of mine who worked in Getty Publications, mm-hmm. and she said I should meet with this editor, mm-hmm. who would be great to just sort of pick her brain and kind of get ideas about children's publishing and the business and such. And so we had lunch, and then she had recommended that I attend the SCBWI conference,
okay.
the Society of Children Book Writers and Illustrators. And so I did, and so we developed a friendship, she and I, and over the years, we would meet and get together and such. And then when I started the MFA program at the Vermont College of Fine Arts, she also had an idea at that time to do a book project, a children's book project, in correlation with this exhibition on Egypt and Rome uh-huh. and Greece, and so we...
Oh, so it was part of an exhibition that we were doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was sort of inspired by this mm-hmm. exhibition. And so she had this, concept, and asked if I'd be interested in working on the book, and
right.
also Nick Geller, who was working in publications at the time as a graduate intern. So we started collaborating on the project, and it was, it's such a wonderful process, because we would, of course, everything's over email,
right,
so
sure.
we'd
right.
send, we would send each other drafts and
the way the Romans did.
Exactly. That's right.
But so was it her idea, the concept? So explain the concept of the book.
So the concept was to have a book that compared and contrasted the Egyptian and Roman cultures.
Cool.
And it was loosely based on Aesop's fable, The City Mouse,
and
the
wow.
Country Mouse.
Really?
So just sort of a spin-off of
yeah.
that. So yeah, so she had this idea, and since I was finishing up, this was probably the end of 2016. Wow. Yeah, because I graduated in 2017. So in January 2017. So she said, I know you're really crazy right now, you're about to graduate and everything, but as soon as you graduate, do you want to work on this book? And I was so happy too, because of course she said the characters would also be cats.
And you hate cats. So must have been a challenge to overcome.
Well, and that was another aspect that sort of inspired the storyline, is that Egyptians loved and worshipped cats.
Yeah, that's right.
But that Romans, they had cats.
That's right.
But they
just wander.
They just wander, and they were more, and they actually preferred dogs as pets.
Right.
And so that was kind of a nice sort of element of the story to play with.
Right. There's a conflict there.
Yeah, exactly. So we had some built-in kind of interesting plot sort of information there.
Right. So how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, we had kind of a fast track because usually it takes longer.
So they wanted the script soon.
Yeah. And of course we had to get an illustrator really
Oh yes, so yeah.
quickly, and usually illustrators have,
Right.
quite a bit of, well, they'd have at least a year, if not longer, and so so we kind of started in February or so, and we had to have the book pretty well finished by the summer.
Wow.
Yeah, and then of course you have drafts, and we had
Right.
Abrams was distributing the book,
Okay.
so they kind of had input on it too. So there was a lot of back and forth over the summer, but we pretty much had to have a solid draft.
So you had to have the draft, but before the illustrations, or how did the illustrator work its way into working with you on the book?
Well, that's a good question, because normally you have the draft totally
Right.
finished and the book totally finished before the illustrator is on board.
Right.
But we were still kind of tweaking and editing the text
Uh-huh.
when Michelle came on board. So, but we had basically the story
Right.
and some of the text together. But, she did come in kind of a unique time.
Right.
And this is all because it was such a fast
Right.
track.
You had to
To
meet
get it.
the same. It had to be that open at the same time as the exhibition, right?
Yes,
Exhibit.
that's
Okay,
right. And that's what made the
Right.
deadline, because the exhibition was going to be that following March.
Right.
And of course we had to have, once you have the book, and this was so fascinating too, just being part of the whole publishing process,
Right.
with the designers and
Oh, sure.
having, all of the really hard deadlines of when it has to be done in order to be printed and shipped,
Right.
and everything had to be for the exhibition.
Wow.
So it's not like we had any leeway.
Right.
I mean, I guess worst case scenario, if there is some sort of huge delay in an exhibition, like it's exhibition related book,
Mhm.
I guess it just comes out later, but of course that's just bad.
Right. Sure.
You just don't, because you lose so much of that initial
Right.
interest, so I had, in 2013, I had attended an SCBWI conference, and I had picked up a business card of this illustrator who I just loved
Wow.
to death, and I kept her card in my wallet for
Mhm.
years. I still have it in my wallet, because I just loved her style so much. So when Elizabeth asked us, to suggest illustrators, and so I had this kind of list of people, based on people I had
Sure.
sort of I've seen
Contacted.
their work, and yet
Right.
at these in an SCBWI conference and this and that, but she was on the top of the list, and she has cats. And
That helps.
she did
Yeah.
a lot of her artwork too, and she
Oh.
has self-published this book. I believe it was self-published, that featured these two different kinds of cats, and it also had a mummy cat. So that was very,
Telling. Yeah.
it was, yeah.
That's-
So and that was nice
Came
to
all
be able to
together.
show everyone else
Right.
the sort of Egypt connection, and that she has this sort of image that would be so whimsical and relevant.
So you brought her in. Was she looking at your drafts as you were writing it and rewriting it?
I not so much, because we eventually did have to kind of, we gave her kind of the scenes that
Right.
she would be able to illustrate, but fairly quickly we were able to kind of get
Right.
sort of the text to her to work with, and so yeah, she was amazing. She worked so quickly, and of course she received feedback
Sure.
from the Getty team and people
Right.
at Abrams, and so she was, and so she really did a tremendous job in a short period of time.
Do you get a say on like cover art or anything about the publication itself?
Well, I think normally, I think this was a unique process because Elizabeth was a co-author
Mm-hmm.
and the editor, and working closely within the publishing team. So, so I think there probably was a little bit more kind of feedback
Right.
that we could give, being kind of at the Getty and working with Getty Publications.
Right.
But sometimes, like if I was working with Penguin,
Right.
you know, just sort of a publishing house that I wasn't sort of kind of more closely into, that
Right.
that sometimes you really
You don't have
you
any.
don't have
Right.
much say, especially as a debut author. It kind of depends who
True.
you're working with, I guess, but yeah, that always is tricky too, because especially with people, like
Right.
characters, because you always have an image in your head
Sure.
of what they look like,
Right.
and then if it's dramatically different, you
Right.
just, that's
right.
not the
Yeah, that's not even close to what I was thinking.
yeah, exactly. And you know, at the end of the day, like from you don't really, especially as a debut author, you don't really have the final say.
Right.
So.
That's always surprising because you're talking about an author, an illustrator, publishers, editors. So all of them have to work in like a collaboration.
Yeah.
They have to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that you're right. They probably have different views.
Yeah.
And they want to throw in their 2 cents to
Well, and like any relationship, you know, I
Right.
think people are always trying, and you have your literary agent. you
Right,
know,
sure.
And
right, trying to protect your good interests.
yeah,
Right.
and so, you know, at its best, you have such a good relationship with your agent and your editor. Like, you know, I hear authors talk about that too, is when that relationship is so solid. Like,
Right.
life is good, because
Right.
even when,
Sure.
because it's like, you know, anyone who gives you feedback or critique,
Right.
you can develop a relationship with someone, whether it's in a writer's group or someone, where it's just you have a nice dynamic,
Right.
and you're able to sort of relate and communicate about things, even difficult
Right.
topics, in a good way. And then there's those people that you just don't.
Right. Sure. It's like anything.
Yeah, like.
But
any-
I'm sure because of publishing and there's so much writing on it that there's even bigger stakes
Yeah.
for it to be successful.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And luckily, you know, it's we, you know, all got along really well,
Right.
and so that worked out well. But you know, I've heard sort of horror stories,
Sure.
and it's always tricky too, because you know, even with yeah, and you know, obviously, like anything, you have to pick your battles
Right.
too. And if they had said that, yeah, we don't want them to be cats.
Right. Sure.
You know, we think we should change the idea. What about bunnies?
Yeah.
There's not any books about like Egyptian bunnies, or
Yeah.
you know, but they, of course, they never say that.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. No. That's completely changing
yeah,
it. And I know in like at least in the industry, if you change like 6 or 7 things, your name's off the title. Right.
Yeah.
So there's sort of you have to invest something in it, and if they completely change the plot or even the characters or where it's set, then it really destroys your creative what you intended it to be.
That's right.
Creative intent.
and,
So
yeah.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
so how long has this book been out?
So this has been out. So it's been out at the Getty
Mhm.
through Getty Publications since the exhibition opened last March. So
Oh, wow.
a little over
Almost-
a year ago.
Right.
And then it was released to the trades broadly last September.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. And
I'll put a with Amazon's.
Oh,
link
good.
to it, so that people can.
yeah. It's and it's yeah, and it has this nice sort of seek and find feature at the back. So
Oh, is that right?
So there's exhibition.
Oh yeah, so you're
options
learning stuff.
throughout the whole the book, and so this, of course, this text is this is probably for a little bit of an older audience,
Right,
than
right.
to the reader and such, but it's fun. Even when kids come to the Getty, they can find the objects in
Right.
the book, or when the exhibition was on,
Right.
and they could find them in the exhibition. So it was really a special project, just to be able, to have it related to an exhibition.
And I was going to say, do you feel like, when you look at this book, do you feel like, this is what I wanted? Something
Yeah.
Like this,
Yeah,
Right.
it really, and of course, as a picture book too, like so much was, the illustrations
Right.
are so key,
Right.
and I just am so grateful that Michelle did such a brilliant job.
Yeah, no, and I heard about that with the illustrator is a big part of the children's book market.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to find the right illustrator, or you illustrate yourself
Yeah.
in order for you to get something published.
Well, and
Right.
that is, that's, as we know, of course, there are a lot of writer illustrators, and that is, if you have the talent to do both,
Right.
that's the way to go.
Right,
You can assure
Yeah.
everything is exactly the way you want it.
Exactly. Right. And then you also had puppets made for
Yeah.
this. So how did this come about?
Well, so
Do you go on like book readings with this, or?
yeah, so this is Cornelius, and you can probably see from the book, there he
Right.
is down here. And then this is Cleo. And so, as you know, I'm a puppeteer, and I taught puppeteering, television puppeteering classes, yeah,
Right.
Cleo. So, when the book was first released and such, I was just, kind of talking about the idea of why don't we have puppets made.
Oh.
And then I have some friends in the sort of puppeteering.
I am surprised how much it looks like the picture,
Oh my
like the
gosh.
actual illustration.
Well, and
So you had someone do this for the book.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and it's interesting that you say that, because normally, people who build puppets, they don't have
Exactly.
they have one picture.
Right.
And it was really cool for Nate Hernandez, who did the puppets, is he had a whole book.
Right. Sure.
And so,
Right.
but he really did a great job, and so we did do a school visit, and we've been doing several library visits.
Oh, good.
So we have a puppet program that
Right.
also, we think is very entertaining, and also sort of shares information on Egypt and Rome,
Right.
and also has, just some fun sort of dialogue. And we also use my brow puppet, another cat puppet.
Uh-huh.
And so we've gone to several libraries, and this summer we're going to the North Hollywood Library and Central Library.
Wow.
We're going to do a show, and then also I'm presenting a little puppet that was kind of an offshoot. We did a performance at the Studio City Library,
Cool.
and then I'm going to come back and do another puppet program there. So it's been kind of a neat sort of
Wow.
offshoot of
Uh-huh.
the experience, just having the puppets, and it is interesting because obviously kids love puppets.
Yeah, sure.
And then
Well, I was going to say, because, a lot of, there's obviously Pinocchio, but there's a lot of children's stories related to puppeteering and marionettes, right? Faust, Goethe's Faust. Goethe saw a Faust puppet, right? A puppet show, and he created, that's how Faust became the Faust book, right?
Interesting.
Back in the 1600s. Right, so it's a popular genre that's connected to children's tales, because you're right, kids like the visual, and that's how they learn the stories to it. So there's a lot of intertwining between the children's literature and the folk tale and puppeteering. Right?
yeah, that's so well said, and it's encouraging too, because even with phones and such,
Right.
that kids still respond
Yeah, sure.
so well to puppets.
Right.
Like they
Yeah.
it just blows their mind, and kids of all ages
Right.
we've seen at these performances, and we actually brought the puppets to the Skirball Puppet Fest
Mhm.
too. So anyway, yeah, it is interesting how that, and it complements the story. You feel like
Right,
you get
sure.
to know the characters
Right.
in a different way, and yeah, so that's been, and for me personally, it's been so wonderful just to be able to puppeteer.
Right, because do you get a certificate? What did you? I know you went to like a training.
Yeah,
Right.
so I studied with Michael Earl, who has so many amazing credits. He was Mr. Snuffleupagus for many
Oh.
years on Sesame Street.
Right.
So I studied with him, and puppet school,
Mhm.
which is no longer, but puppet school in LA, I studied television puppetry. So I took all of their classes, like
Right.
every single class I could possibly take. And then Michael actually got sick, so I taught his puppeteering for television classes for years.
Wow.
So, and then, LA's such a, there's a lot of puppeteers, but, it's a neat sort of
Yeah,
close-knit
tight
community.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's even when I was really focusing during the grad program and writing and such, it's like you stay connected, and you get calls and
Sure.
sort of do puppeteering work.
Right.
but yeah, it's, and even in grad school, advisors would say that you really should, utilize the
Right, bring it up,
puppetry
right.
for the children's books. Yeah.
Do you like doing the libraries, reading, using the puppets? And
Yeah, it is. It's so great. As a, kind of former actor,
Right.
so it's fun to like get, because
Sure.
writing can be kind of isolating
Yes,
sometimes.
that's true. Yeah.
So it is neat to be able to kind of get out, and especially to
Right.
see. It is another way to really get to see the kids' reactions.
Right.
Right. Immediately, toward the puppets and the book. So I really enjoy that too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'm going to take a break. Actually, I want
Sure.
to talk about the new project that you're working on
great.
too. So
Okay.
I want to actually, I'll stop it now, and then we'll go to the other.
Okay, great.
presentation.